let's talk about errors. Alright, we find ourselves back in Hytale once more, and in this lecture over here, we're talking about errors. Dun dun dun, yes! And the first thing to say over here is never fear errors. Yes, I know it sounds crazy. I know what you've been propagandized into by the school system is that every mistake is wrong. No, not in programming. I will once again reiterate, we are dealing with software, meaning that usually things are changeable, adaptable. That's literally how it is designed. And basically, you should completely reorganize your mindset around errors when it comes to programming. They are feedback. Okay? That's what it is. It's feedback. And we'll take a look at two different sort of types of errors. There are compiler errors and runtime errors. Yeah, it's way more complicated than that. Let's not get too deep into the weeds, but the idea is that there's certain mistakes that can happen that are shown before you run the program, and then there are certain things that only happen during running the program, right? So for example, we can have syntax errors. Let's, for example, say, hey, we can have an integer x, and we'll make that equal to 0.0. And you're like, that something ain't right. And it actually shows us by underlining this with a red underline. And we can hover over this and it says, well, what we require here is an integer because x is an integer. However, we're assigning the value of a double. That doesn't work, right? So this would be, in this case, an error of, in this case, an incompatible type, right? Because, well, the integer is not compatible with a double. Okay, fair enough. Now, right in the next line, what we can write is int x equals 0. And we're going to have an error right here because this is sneaky. We have declared the variable right here, right? Int x. And now we're declaring it again. That does not work. So if we look at this, we can see x is already defined in the scope. So we already have an x, so we can't define it again. Another error. And that would, for example, be one. That is one example. Let's comment those out so we can actually move on to another one. Let's say all of a sudden we have 3 more closing curly brackets. Now everything is red. Oh my God, what is happening? There's so much red here. Once again, take a deep breath. Errors are feedback. This means that something has gone awry. Okay, let's say we hover over this. It says class or interface expand. That's weird, but we see there's like one of them is underlined. Maybe there's something to do with that. Very likely, if you have an uneven or not an uneven specifically, but like a not correct number of, let's say, curly brackets over here, then you're outside of a specific scope. What I've said before is that we're gonna take a look at this curly bracket and this curly bracket, and I'm gonna put everything inside of this. All of a sudden, we're outside of the scope. That's why indents and things like that and how everything is shaped can sometimes be very important. Now, usually if you have something like a quotation mark, like a parentheses, they come in pairs, right? So when you click right here on this open curly bracket, you can see this is the closing curly bracket. And if I click on this one right here, you can see the other one highlights. This is another closing curly bracket. And then this one doesn't exist. So if I were to delete this, all of a sudden the error would shift, so to speak, because now this is all proper code, or in this case, right, because it's just a comment. Comment can exist anywhere, but these 2 curly brackets are too much. So now this has the same thing, expected something else. So that can happen too, right? So if there's too many closing curly brackets, that can happen. Too many closing curly brackets, right? Can happen, and that's something to always keep in mind, to always look out for, because that's a devious error that has occurred. It might also be that you have shifted wrong, because sometimes you can have like multiple different sort of curly brackets within each other, right? So you have like multiple different layers, let's say, and maybe sometimes you choose the wrong layer that you're in. That can happen, right? And then something would show up as an error. That's totally fine. Something we've already seen, if we have an int z equals 0 and we don't put in the semicolon, well, that is expected. So this would be another error, right? And that's going to be expected semicolon, right? Awesome. All right. So we can deal with that. Those are a couple of errors that you will see within the code, and this will, by the way, not allow you to run the code, right? So you will see at the top over here, we have an error, okay? And if we were to run this over here, it will say, listen, you have to fix this error. Because this is an error the program already notices, right? This is, like I said, a compiler error before anything runs. And then we get to runtime errors. Those only happen during the program. So the program at the moment of writing that code doesn't know that this is a thing. Now in this case, maybe it does a little bit, but that's okay. Float y is equal to 1 divided by 0. Now in this case, it throws you a warning because it knows that that happens because this is a 0. But let's say 1,000 other things happened with this integer before, and it doesn't know that, then this will throw an exception. So this would be called an exception, divide by 0. We've seen this previously too, and we're going to run this over here, and you see that it says exception in thread main, Java arithmetic exception, divide by 0. And the cool thing about this is that this is why errors are feedback, because it tells you where this issue is. Oh, what? Yeah, if you click on this, it gets you to the exact line this issue has occurred in. This is what we call a stack trace. High-level overview, basically, it just makes you able to trace back where the error occurred, which is pretty freaking cool, right? So here it says, hey, we are main over here with 22, so this is line 22. Pretty neat. That's really awesome. So plus, basically a plus a point for the freaking error. Now we have another type of exception. There's a lot of different ones. One you will 1,000% run into is something called, this is one that's definitely a bit of a crazy one. That is the null pointer exception. I don't even know if this is going to be a null pointer exception that we're going to throw right here, but that's going to be fine. We're going to take a look at this. The idea is as follows. If we have a string text, right, what we can do is instead of, let's say, we could say Kaupenjoe. Okay, we could do that. But let's say we're like, oh, I just want to make a text, but I just want to, we're not going to assign it any value. Okay, it's going to be kept empty. That's going to be null in this case. So null is not 0, right? It's written like the German word null, which would be 0, but it's not 0. It's actually nothing. It's basically non-existent, right? It has no value. And you can also see this is another keyword, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail later as well. But for the time being, if we now were to try to get the length of a text, right, which we can do by text.length. Now, once again, this is something where we're taking a little bit from a future lecture here already. But if we were to do that, and we would then system out the length, the length of the text is, and we would simply say length over here, what do you imagine would happen? Well, let's just see. We're going to get an exception over here. In this case, it says we cannot invoke the string length over here. I think we can force a null pointer exception if we were to just write the text over here. So if we were to write our text is, right? And now this is also quite interesting. So we now have two different errors over here. Now this is going to be very interesting. So what's going to happen now? Well, let's just run this and you'll find we now get a null pointer exception, right? And the idea is that if you look at this, well, this over here, this didn't even throw an error. This actually got our text as null. Oh, isn't that interesting? Yeah, so this isn't an error over here in this case, but this is, right? So the error occurs in line 28, and what you'll actually find is the length of the text is never output. Because what happens here is that as soon as this happens, and as soon as an exception is thrown, everything else after that does not get executed, because this is that's why it's called an exception, because it is something that happened that was unexpected, right? So it's an exception of the rule, and this exception has not been handled properly. We can handle exceptions so that the program still does other things and actually still basically finishes its process correctly, but in this case, because an exception has been thrown, it doesn't work. Very interesting indeed. Now, one thing here to note as well is that at the end right here, it says process finished with exit code 1. So this is something that I see a lot of beginners do as an error. They give, let's say, oh, my Minecraft mod doesn't work. I get this. And then they say process finished with exit code minus 8,335. I'm telling you, I understand, but this is why I'm telling you this. This tells you nothing, okay? This only tells you whether or not the program terminated properly or not. So if I were to remove both of these lines, both of the error lines, and rerun this again, now we have our process finished with exit code 0, meaning that our program properly finished at the end, right? If we have an error or an exception thrown, then here you can see in this case it is exit code 1, but it can also be any type of other exit code. As your program gets more complicated, it's probably going to throw all sorts of exit codes. Usually this does not give you anything. What you want to give someone is both the stack trace right here, so this thing, as well as all of your code. Then people can tell you and help you with your error. That's one very, very important thing to note here as well. But yeah, that is one exception, or well, yeah, one exception here for the null pointer exception, right? One example of this. And let's just comment this out as well, just for the sake of argument. Then we have one final one, just sort of as a general sort of thing to think about. And that is you want to fail loudly. Now you might say, what do you mean fail loudly? I mean, school, you should never fail. People, my father told me that I should never fail. I always have to succeed. No. Once again, you have to reprogram literally your mind to understand errors or feedback when it comes to code, always. And the reason why you want to fail loudly is because that means, right? This means there is something to fix. And that's the point. That's the point of it, right? You want something to throw a loud error so that you can go in and you can be like, okay, I have to fix something. Let's think about the scanner again. I highly recommend you go down into the description to the code. I'm just going to write the scanner out here over how it's written. Like I said, I've glossed over it before. All of the code is available to you down below. So let's then output, enter anything but a number, right? That's gonna throw an error. Okay. Because now what we want is we're going to have an integer number equal to the scanner.nextInt. Okay, so we're reading in an integer. We've seen this previously, but we're telling the user, hey, let enter anything over here that is actually not a number. And then we're going to say, you just typed, and then the number. Now what's going to happen? If I run this, everything is going to be fine. And it says enter anything but a number that's going to throw an error. Okay, so we enter Kaupenjoe, and then it's going to throw us an exception right here. Because, well, we've expected an integer, but we've given it a string. Of course, does not work. All right, that is awesome, and that's great. And you can see the entire stack trace actually goes all the way into the scanner itself, and then it finally ends here, once again, in line 36, exactly where our program had the issue where, well, we inputted, or yeah, we input something that shouldn't have been input. There's an input mismatch exception. Very, very interesting. So, in general, what I'm trying to tell you with this lecture. You might say this has been a very strange lecture. We've just seen a bunch of errors. What does that even mean? The one thing I want to drill into your head, this is extremely important, is that you should never fear errors, okay? I understand it can be quite unnerving, right? If there's a lot of red in there, if you have it's like there's errors upon errors, everything is red. Oh my God. Just stay calm. That is completely normal. I'm telling you, it is completely normal. Errors are never your enemy. They are always your friend, because errors mean that you have something to fix and that you can immediately take care of, basically. That's the whole point. That's the whole idea. And that's basically the general gist of what I wanted to try to convey with this particular lecture in this case. Yeah, so we heard about errors today. Number one, compiler errors over here that are errors that are shown before you run the program, as well as runtime errors, errors that only happen after you run the program. Both of them, of course, need to be fixed. And when you are doing something, you should want to fail loudly so that if something happens that is unexpected, that you can immediately fix it and change it up. And you should never treat errors as something bad. You should never fear them. They are feedback for your program and what to fix next. All right, that's going to be it for this lecture right here. I hope you found this useful and you learned something new. I'll see you all in the next lecture. So, yeah.